Welcome here to Medley in Dublin. It's in the heart of the city centre. The building where I'm sitting at the moment used to house the printing press for the Irish Times. Now we do food. We have weddings, we have corporate events, private parties. So this series is all about food. I'm going to be running through some really wonderful, tasty, very simple recipes that we would have had at home growing up as kids. Back in the 70s, my recollection of Christmas is wrapping presents on Christmas Eve, getting ready for Santa Claus, but it was also about prepping food. I really hope you enjoy it, and I know I will as well. Welcome back to the Medley Kitchen. Today we're doing the most exquisite recipe. It's seared scallops with black pudding. I have been doing this for years, not only for family and friends, but also at weddings. It's so simple, and the piece de la resistance here is actually to prep as much in advance as possible. Now, I'm very fortunate that I had a head chef here, Camilla. She prepped everything for me. So to start with, I've got some butter. So butter, 1 part butter, 1 part your main ingredient. Now, I'm actually joking, it's not really that, but I mean, we do love butter in our cooking. So this is salted, cubed butter, and I'm gonna put this up onto a medium heat. Now, I'm using induction cooking. Some people prefer gas. Gas, I find, is really difficult to regulate, particularly if you have a window open, a door open, somebody comes in, closes the door, bang, the gas either creates energy and then destroys the food. So induction is foolproof and it's consistent. So in one pan, I'm going to use this for my scallops. Now the scallops, when they're farmed off the coast of Ireland, generally spring come winter time is when they're farmed generally. So you have these lovely ribbed shells. I love to serve them in the shell, and this could be like served as a little canapé, or you could serve it on a main plate as a starter or even as a main course. It really depends on what you're looking for and what your preferences are. It's all about basic preferences. The other ingredients I have here, I've got some cherry tomatoes, I've got some shallots, I've got some garlic. I'm using some clonakilty black pudding here, and we've got some mint to finish it off at the end. And mint complements peas really well if you're doing a pea and mint soup. Sometimes I would actually garnish this with a pureed pea and mint mix as well, but I'm not going to kind of confuse the flavors. So first of all, in here, I'm going to make up my black pudding salsa. So this is what we're using the main ingredients base here for. So we've got our shallots, we've got our garlic straight in there, up at the heat. Now, I've got good enough heat here. A really good way to make sure that your butter is not going to blacken or it's not going to burn is to add a little bit of rapeseed oil in here or a little bit of olive oil, and that means that it'll increase the cooking temperature so that the butter will not burn. So over we go here. I'm going to give that a little bit of seasoning with some salt and pepper. In we go with the salt and pepper, and here we go. I'm getting beautiful smells already. So I've got this is probably the ideal temperature for me at the moment. So what we have here are these beautiful scallops, and we've got that roe on there as well. Some people don't like to use the roe. I do. I think it gives it lovely flavor and it presents really nicely as well. So in we go there. Bring the temperature up a little bit more. Now, I don't want these to be too burnt. I just want to soften the shallot and the garlic. And then I'm going to add in my black pudding. So the black pudding, what we've done is we've diced and cubed that. So black pudding is always cooked when you buy it. So it's pre-cooked when they're manufacturing it, so you don't need to make sure that it's cooked through. It's really just to warm it through. So that's the key with black pudding. And what I don't want to do either, I don't want to break this up. So I just want to basically warm it through, and I'm just being really careful not to break it up because I don't want this to turn into a mulch. I just want to have the texture there and I want to get the taste right. And the great thing about this particular black pudding clonakilty is that we've got lovely texture. You've got barley, you've got rice, you've got rusk, and you've got all the lovely seasoning in there as well. Now, here we go with the scallops. I can get that smell. Scallops are beautifully sweet as well. A little bit of black pepper, a little bit of salt. And I'm going to cook for 1.5 minutes on one side, flip them 1.5 minutes, and I'm going to put them straight into the oven, which I've got preheating at 70 degrees. I'm also going to add into this a little bit of cumin. So this is into my black pudding salsa. So a little bit of cumin there. And I'm now going to add in my cherry tomatoes. In with the cherry tomatoes, up with a little bit more heat, clean as you go. And I'm going to put a little bit of stock in here as well. So I've got, you can either use vegetable stock, fish stock, beef stock, whatever you'd like to use. And again, that will then define what the finished flavor is going to be like. So I'm going to taste that in a second. I'm going to flip my scallops. So they're starting to brown nicely. I'm going to increase the temperature. And there's one other thing I'm going to add into that in a second. I just want to season this a little bit more. This is for the salsa. Now, as you can see, these scallops are browning absolutely beautiful. The butter's starting to separate, so it is getting a little bit too hot, so just be really careful of that. I'm going to add in something else here. I'm going to add in a little bit of whiskey. But when you're cooking, it's kind of really important, particularly if you're cooking with wine, to taste it as well as you're cooking. It's an important part of the process, particularly over Christmas. So I'm going to have a little taste. Triple distilled, actually. Oh, that's divine. Just a little bit of ice. It's great. I'll leave that to one side. So up with my temperature again here. I want piping hot temperatures. I'm going to add a little bit of that whiskey and then I'm going to put it into the oven just to finish it off. This is cooking through nicely. I'm going to taste it. Really important to taste as you're cooking. Lovely. That doesn't need anything else. In here with our whiskey. Not a lot. So that's bubbling away nicely. And what I want to do is I want to caramelize that. I want to reduce that sauce down. And if you have a high temperature, that's going to cook off the alcohol. And then we can use that for garnish afterwards. So we can actually spoon a little bit of that caramelized whiskey, butter, sweetness of the scallops over it as a garnish. So I'm good with that. I can smell the whiskey and I can actually, you can smell it burning off as well. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a top tip here. It is important to taste as well. Lovely flavor. There's enough salt, enough pepper. And I'm going to put this into the oven at 70 degrees, no more, because they're cooked through. I just want to keep them warm. So into the oven. And I'm now going to plate up. So we have either, you can serve it up in a shell, which I'll leave on one side. And then we have our salsa here as well. So I'm going to spoon the salsa on. Actually, I'm going to use this spoon. There we go. So over here to one side. Now, if you decide you want to put it into the shell, a little bit of the salsa in there. And these flavors complement themselves absolutely beautiful. Little spoon on the side. And I'm going to grab my scallops and I'm going to finish those off. Here we go. So these are absolutely divine. Just make sure you coat scallops once more in that beautiful butter and whiskey mix. Here we go. Oh my good Lord, look at that. So if it's going to be like a small starter canapé portion, just the one, or if you're feeling a little bit like pushing the boat out, a little bit more. And the last thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to finish it off with a little bit of mint, just like so. And then we have a little sprig in there as well, which is absolutely divine. And here we go, black pudding, scallops, and a mint dressing.